In the conservative world, has to be careful. This podcast could sink his ship.
I'm pro Nuance.
Yeah. How'd you come up with the shirt? Pro Nuance?
I don't know.
Bullshit?
Listen, I think the way that I came up with it is because in the hunting world, there is this, speaking of conservative, there's the conservative traditionalist, right?
Yeah.
And there's the more progressive folks that you have met and been around. You've been around both, but been around both that are more environmentalist, more public lands, more access, right? So there's kind of like two, of course, there's always two sides in politics, but there's, in this case, two distinct sides, right? And the line kind of gets drawn around, one, a little bit around guns, but also a little bit around the environment. So part of the biggest issue in politics for a hunter or angler right now is like, I really like guns. I like the Second Amendment. I dig what's going on there. I'd like to support that. But what I also like is healthy ecosystems and environment, and I like habitat for wild game to live in public lands and access. Well, it just so happens that a lot of the A+ rated politicians for the NRA are like F- or D+ rated in protecting wildlife and wildlands. And a lot of that's around extraction and different things like that. But
extraction of minerals and oil and natural resources
from valuable
those
lands, right?
So they changed the way these lands are scheduled, like what it's under.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of those are around monuments, of course. That was one big one. But it's just around like the general basis of, even as a hunter, but all Americans, but as a hunter, I'm faced with like, I love wildlife, I love wild places, clean water, clean lands. I'm all for that. That's a huge part of what I believe in. But I also believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in my right to defend my family. I believe in my right to own firearms and to do that. So I believe in those two things. But because our politics are the way they are, it doesn't leave room for those two beliefs when I'm at the voting booth.
I agree with the topic that these two are discussing. I mean, in regards to nuance, I mean, I'm not hip specifically to, laws about gun violence and all that stuff, even though I do agree with the guest on this show, Ben O'Brien, I think. I guess that's his name. Where he can have... To enable to have a nuanced view about a topic. I mean, this is, in his case, he's more familiar with gun ownership and all that. My dad owned rifles. He didn't own actual pistols, but he had like, oh my God, 7 rifles, like full blown, like legit ass rifles. And like, he used to hunt. He used to go hunting with some, like his friends and whatnot, whatever. I've dated dudes that were hunters and whatnot and had game because of what they ate. I don't know. I do think that, again, a nuanced view has to be held about gun ownership and responsibility around that. Again, like in the public domain, it's always some extreme oppositional view, or like, just don't ban it altogether. I mean, I do think assault rifles, I mean, in my opinion, people can own like regular generic rifles and pistols, but like assault rifles, like machine guns. And I mean, no one can hold a nuanced view about anything anymore. Like, I mean, I grew up mixed race, right? I'm a mixed race. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I grew up with the hypocrisy of living as a mixed race person and the world, one, telling you who you are. 2, I grew up with the hypocrisy of African Americans ridiculing white people for appropriation. I've seen that. I mean, we've all seen that. Oh, but then so many African American women get their hair straightened, and like, I'm like, no. And then I've seen the hypocrisy of like racist white people, okay, that go and burn their skin to get tan. Literally don't like black people because their skin, but they go fry in the sun to get tan, and then they blow up their lips to look like some kind of crazy duck person, but they don't, but they make fun of African American features of fuller lips and whatnot. I mean, I've been growing up with this hypocrisy my whole freaking life. That's why I'm a fan of Bill Maher, because he's been calling this shit out a minute, okay? He's been calling out hypocrisy and like insanity for a minute, and people think he's changed. He hasn't changed. Like, he has not changed. Like, I've been watching that mofo since Politically Incorrect. He's been my self-appointed current events professor for decades now. That's how I get all my news, because he makes the news and current events palatable, because otherwise you'd be depressed and want to slit your throat because it's so freaking depressing. But he's in the realm of satire, which we're long missing, you know, and humor, and which we need, and especially discussing difficult topics, right? But he's been doing this. He had the show Politically Incorrect. The fact that he even named it Politically Incorrect was already indicative that he was calling out like a lot of this hypocritical stuff back when. I've been attacked. I'm a Democrat, a moderate Democrat. Nowadays, politics has gotten so batshit crazy that I relate more to moderate Republicans than I do far left-wing radicalized Democrats. I can't relate to them. And if you talk to most freaking Democrats, they can't relate to them either. I mean, and you know, people are just like, I've got both hardcore Trumper thumper. My mom's a Trumper thumper, dude. My mom's a stone cold Trumper thumper. She voted for Trump both times and calls Obama Hussein. She doesn't even call him Obama. Like, dude, she's hardcore. Like, and that's my own mother. And like, but then my brother and sister and I, I've got 2 half siblings, and from my mom, and then 1 from my dad. We're all Democrats, and we voted for Obama twice. I'm just saying, but you know, and like, it's just like you get these extreme. I've got family members that don't talk to someone because of their political views. It's just an opinion, and it changes. My mom used to be a Democrat. She married a black man. Okay, she used to be a Democrat. Now she's a hardcore Trumper thumper. I mean, people's opinions change. So to vilify people for an opinion, which is not even a solid thing, it's just something that you're feeling at this particular moment, is insane, you know, and all this divisiveness caused by this. And like I'm saying, I consider myself a moderate Democrat. I got attacked by like more leftist viewing Democrats. And that's happened to Bill Maher. He's an entrenched Democratic bachelor. He hasn't changed. Like, I haven't seen that he's really, I mean, in some ways he's obviously changed in his life, but as far as like that kind of stuff, I haven't, like, at least his public persona hasn't indicated it.
Seriously though, we've heard a lot about extremism recently, a nastier, harsher atmosphere everywhere, more abuse and bother boy behavior, less friendliness and tolerance and respect for opponents. All right, but what we never hear about extremism is its advantages. Well, the biggest advantage of extremism is that it makes you feel good, because it provides you with enemies. Let me explain. The great thing about having enemies is that you can pretend that all the badness in the whole world is in your enemies, and all the goodness in the whole world is in you. Attractive, isn't it? So, if you have a lot of anger and resentment in you anyway, and you therefore enjoy abusing people, then you can pretend that you're only doing it because these enemies of yours are such very bad persons. And that if it wasn't for them, you'd actually be good-natured and courteous and rational all the time. So, if you want to feel good, become an extremist. Okay, now you have a choice. If you join the hard left, they'll give you their list of authorized enemies. Almost all kinds of authority, especially the police, the city, Americans, judges, multinational corporations, public schools, furriers, newspaper owners, fox hunters, generals, class traitors, and, of course, moderates. Or, if you'd rather be an extremist on the hard right, no problem, fine, you still get a lovely list of enemies, only they're different ones. Noisy minority groups, unions, Russia, weirdos, demonstrators, welfare sponges, meddlesome clergy, peaceniks, the BBC, strikers, social workers, communists, and, of course, moderates. and upstart actors. Now, once you're armed with one of these super lists of enemies, you can be as nasty as you like and yet feel your behaviors morally justified. So you can strut around abusing people and telling them you could eat them for breakfast and still think of yourself as a champion of the truth, a fighter for the greater good, and not the rather sad paranoid schizoid that you really are.
I mean, I remember I was all bummed out. I was bummed out when the Bushes got in office. I was all like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. The Bushes are in office. Oh my God. I remember being so bummed out, right? Dude, by the time Trump got in office, I would have sucked a dick to get a freaking Bush back in the office, dude. I was like, what? I mean, seriously, like, it's like also relative. Like, and granted, as much as I am not a Trump fan, I think he has sociopathic and narcissistic tendencies, which I don't think make good leaders. I think he was funny. He was a great entertainer. I'll give him that. But I'm just not a Trump. I'm not a Trump fan as far as like being a leader of a country, because, you know, if you have narcissistic tendencies, I just think that leans towards autocratic types behaviors, right? You know, this is my opinion, right? But I can still acknowledge that he's doing some shit that I'm like, okay, I'm like, props, bitch. Okay, cool, you're doing this, you're doing that. I like that kind of shit. I'll give you props for that. I can acknowledge the nuance that he's doing some shit I like and he's doing some shit I don't like, you know? And as much as I was a fan of Obama, I know there's things he messed up on, you know? Like, and some people will be like, he messed up on this, and he messed on that. You know, just people go, like, just like they do with, like, celebrity or whatever, not being able to acknowledge that celebrities can have human faults and be pedophiles and rapists and whatnot. They do the same thing with politics. They can't hold freaking nuance, and they can't like acknowledge that, like, even if you don't like a particular candidate, doesn't mean they haven't done some things well and they don't do other things poorly. And it's like, it's really frustrating because if we can't hold nuance, we're effed, because we're never going to be able to get to the issue of solving problems. We're just going to be too busy arguing and fighting and, you know, and like not get to the root cause of and solving problems. That's how, like, I mean, in my opinion, I think that's how kind of autocratic regimes become how they reign, because the people are, like they say, divide and conquer. People are so busy arguing with each other that they don't come together to solve problems or work through difficult issues that every single one on either side of the political spectrum faces. And things literally aren't, like, I'm a prime example that things aren't literally or not black and white. Things are nuanced, they're mixed, there's shades of gray, there's pluses and minuses to everything. Like I had an argument with my cousin the other day. We never argue, we're really close. She's one of my African-American cousins and stuff, and she, of course, is very anti-Trump, and I've just known people that I've encountered other Democrats and, you know, that think it was okay that, like, Charlie Kirk got killed. And my cousin and I got an argument around that because I was like, I disagreed with that. And she's like, you know, if he says these horrible things and blah, 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 he deserves to be killed. I heard another Democrat say that too. I did. I heard that. I mean, but I'm like, dude, that's like a horrible precedence to set. Even I personally listened to Charlie Kirk's content. I never heard any of this crazy stuff that my far left Democrat, like, friends and relatives think he said. Maybe he did, I don't know. But still, even if he said the most horrendous things, even though I've never heard it listening to his content, I thought I was giving him props because I'm like, he's going out and talking to people and initiating debate. To me, I thought personally, in my opinion, that was a right approach, because we need to start debating and talking about shit. And and they're like, he deserves to die and blah, blah. That's crazy. I mean, I don't think anyone deserves to die. I just don't. I don't think Trump deserves to die. I don't think Kirk deserves to die. Even if they said the craziest shit, that means you can't have an opinion about shit without worrying about someone killing you. Dude, I don't know, I was just bummed by it because, I don't know, he could have said some horrible, crazy, racist stuff. I haven't heard the canon of his content, so I don't know. But even if he did, I just don't think anyone is deserving of being killed. I just don't. It's just my opinion. I think it's you know, and the people that agree with this and think it's some great thing, that's horrible, because that means they themselves can no longer have an opinion without worrying about being killed. They think this doesn't affect them. It does. It affects them directly. It creates a milieu and an environment where people can't have free speech without worrying about being freaking killed. That's profound ignorance, in my opinion. An individual cannot be held to account to what others choose to do with the information that they're hearing or coming out of their mouth. I mean, it's still those individuals' choice and responsibility as to what they do, you know. So granted, someone can say really volatile and messed up things, and it is worrisome because some people that are mentally unstable will go out and do horrible things, but it can go both ways, whether Republican or Democrat. I'm just saying, because there's a lot of Democrats that have done horrible things, you know, based on things that they've heard, you know. And so it can go both ways. And so to blame people voicing their opinion, to blame them for the actions of other people that do crazy shit based on what they've heard, is not logical, and it doesn't excuse someone being killed, because they can't be held responsible for other people's actions. I mean, and usually when you see certain people that are doing these crazy shootings, and you have these crazy online manifestos and all this stuff, obviously you can see that the root issue really is mental health, okay? Not necessarily blaming some political opinion. A lot of these people that do this shit are mentally deranged. And again, if people could hold nuanced conversation about shit, they can see other factors contributing to violent actions, you know? All I know is I've seen just a lot of hypocrisy. Like, I've just seen like Antifa acting fascist. And I've seen, you know, like, you know, religious evangelicals, you know, and, you know, vilifying certain things and then getting caught in the act doing it themselves. I mean, you just see hypocrisy on both sides, you know, and I think nuance is a pressure valve. Humor and nuance both are pressure valves to release a lot of the tension that builds up over volatile topics. You've got to be able to see the full range of pictures. And that's the thing, like, I made an effort to look at content from both sides of the spectrum. I made an effort to do that. Like, I had to get out of my bubble, because I've been in a Democratic bubble most of my life. And I intentionally got out of the bubble. If we can't accommodate nuance, we're going to become like those countries like in the Middle East that are just constantly inflamed and fighting forever, for generations, decades, like centuries. I'm just saying we're going to become like that if we can't start holding nuance and having open civil discussions and debate about certain topics, and we'll just be constantly arguing and just constantly being bitter about the other side. And I don't know. I just think that, I've seen, like, when I've listened to the content, you know, quote unquote right-wing content, I've seen things I agree with. I agree with what some of the things that they're saying. I've noticed that on both sides. Like, I'll listen to both sides and I'll be like, oh, I agree with that. Oh, I agree with this. And on both sides, you know, and there's other things where I'm like, I don't agree with that. That's like batshit crazy. But it's almost, if you actually engage and listen to both sides, you start seeing that it's just a person with opinions. And like, some of them you agree with and some of you don't. on either side. I'm just saying that's what it. If you actually engage and listen to it, that's what happens. Like, so there's things that have actually come out of Tucker Carlson's mouth I freaking agree with, like Megyn Kelly, like even Candace Owens. And then there's other shit that they say. I'm like, nope, I don't agree with that. Or some things where I think are batshit crazy. I think like Candace Owens is obsessed with like the first wife of France having a dick. I don't even know. Like, who cares? Even if she had a dick, who cares? Like, I just don't care. But whatever. Or obsessed with like the moon landing didn't happen. I think that's batshit crazy. But like, again, that's just her opinion, and my opinion just differs from her. Like, like that's all it is. It's a person with mofo opinions, And like a lot of people that I know, they hold, because most moderates, either on the Republican side or the Democrat side, they hold views that are nuanced. Like they can see that in some instances what the right is saying is true, and other instances it's not, depending on certain causes and conditions affecting a certain event or something. People just want to tend to blanket everything as bad or good, or as this or that, and put the whole blanket over everything when it doesn't pertain to everything, so at the point I was trying to make my cousin is that like sometimes what she's saying is true, and sometimes what the right is saying is true and happens, but it also depends on like when it happened, the time it happened, who was involved, what was involved, certain external circumstances that affected things. So things can be true on both sides. That's the thing. And people just spend so much time arguing too. And like, I'm just saying, this shit's gotten batshit crazy, dude. I mean, and it's like, that's the thing. Like, that's why, I think it just further increases isolation, because people can't feel like they can't talk about shit without someone going histrionic on them, and that's why this setting the precedence of Charlie Kirk someone being murdered because of their political opinions is insane, because everyone says, opinions are like assholes, everyone has them. I mean, dude, then what's wrong with having opinions? We should have right to have free thought. Like, I like, personally, when people have opposing views, because I'm like, okay, I never thought of it that way. And I might find that I still don't agree with them, but I can see, when I see people with opposing views, that in certain circumstances their view is correct. It is true. And in other circumstances they're not. Like, I can see that, And that's the thing. I think we're just spend so much time arguing about shit. And the irony is that both sides can be true depending on the circumstances. That's like freaking so ironic, dude. Oh my God. I think that's why, like, that's one of the spiritual teachings. It's called the middle way. Because when people go to these extremes, it can really skew reality, and it doesn't align necessarily with reality, and it can skew people's perceptions to even be able to see reality correctly. And so that's why I feel like Nuance is in the kind of direction of going the middle way, where you can see that certain topics can hold both truths at the same time. Like, celebrities can be pedophiles and geniuses at the same time. Like, certain politicians you don't like, there's certain things that they can do that are good, that are helpful and good, and other things that are like horrible. Like, that you can see that, like I said, nothing is black or white, and things can be true. Two things can be true at the same time.